Welcome into another Browns victory post-game show here on Network 216. I'm Jacob. We got Jack. We got Nick. We got Casey. We got Eddie. We're all brought to you by our friends over at Homage Apparel. So go check them out. There's a link for the Homage Apparel down in the description down below. Go to our Twitter where we're giving away yet another Victory Monday t-shirt from Homage. So go check that stuff up. Get yourself ready to go as for the showdown with the Ravens. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this fine Victory Sunday evening?
Fantastic.
Can't complain. There better not be one complaint either. There will be complaints. I've seen them already, but I'm tired of that. But I don't care about that because 5-3 is 5-3.
You know what?
I'm ready for the complaints. Let them complain. I'm going to argue my ass off this week.
Hell yeah.
I'm here for
we
all of it.
talked pregame and the pregame show, which if we had a ton of people tune into that, so thank you guys for all, But we talked pregame about the horror stories of losing to guys like Brandon Allen and Duck Hodges. And it's so nice to just turn the page and say, you know what? We've got a defense that's going to make a rookie QB in his first start look like a damn rookie QB in his first start. It's beautiful.
It was like one of those things I'll never forget Bailey Zappi. Like just coming in and just being surgical against that defense. And you're just like, what the hell's going on here,
he did
man?
Nothing the rest of the year, by the way.
Nothing.
Of course he didn't. Well, I mean, it's kind of like this game. I mean, I remember like the first couple of plays. I mean, you had that wide open, just check down to Trey McBride that goes for like 12 yards. They have like their fourth string running back come in and get like a 10-yard gain. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then, I mean, I'm pretty sure someone actually pulled up a stat where it was like the first like 2 or 3 plays they had 25 yards, and then the rest of the game they only had like 40. So it's like, yeah. I mean, it was a crazy just how fast it went from, oh wow, it looks like they actually might have a decent enough offense to at least, drive it down the field early, to they can't do anything. Like they had a couple of good plays, but they could not string anything together.
Yeah, I said on the pregame show, I wanted the Browns, to do to Clayton Tune what the Ravens did to DTR. Mm-hmm. And they did that and then some. Mm-hmm. Did that and then some. Both those quarterbacks were shut out against those defenses. And I'm just glad that we were on the right side of it this time. Everything away. Bounces, penalties, everything.
One of my favorite stats, there was one, so I will say this, it did get called back by penalty, but when they were getting ready when Shelby Harris got his strip sack, you could tell Clayton Tune was loading it up to go deep. Outside of leading into that play, he had not thrown the ball over 10 yards, had not attempted a ball over 10 yards, except for one that got called back for penalty, so it didn't end up counting. But the dude literally had zero time to let anything develop in front of him, and he was just like, screw this, I'm checking it, I'm getting it out of my hands, I'm not playing. He still got sacked 7 times. I wanted to start this off with a statistic that I just was brought up by Next Gen Stats. The Browns defense allowed 59 net yards on 48 plays in Week 9, recording the highest defensive success rate, an 87.5% defensive success rate in a game in the Next Gen Stats era. The Browns have recorded a 69.4% defense success rate this season, the only defense over 64% since 2016. So there is your next gen stat of why the Browns defense how the Browns defense is so great for this week. It was just, like early and often, it was like Myles Garrett's sack he had a sack in this game. It was an afterthought. It was an afterthought when because Dalvin Tomlinson had 3 sacks. He was just absolutely, I thought Dalvin Tomlinson had some really good games, even though I was told that he's only a 2-down player, but I thought he had some really good games going into this. But dude, this was this game where, guys, we talked about this in the offseason, where it was like, hey, it's really important to see players put around Myles, because when Myles does what he does, if there are talented players to clean up after that, it's a whole different story. And don't get me wrong, Dalvin Tomlinson made a lot of great plays on his own, but 2 of those sacks, Clayton Tune was trying to get away from Myles Garrett or trying to get away from Zadarius Smith and Ogbo Okoronkwo. And Jordan Elliott was great again. And Dalvin Tomlinson just tore up Shelby Harris with a huge strip sack. It was everybody, man. Denzel should have had 2 picks. Denzel should have. He missed a second one. Anthony Walker should have had a pick 6. Like it was that kind of game. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but this just feels like the most dominant performance I've ever seen a Browns defense have in my lifetime. And I don't care if it's a 1-win Cardinals game. It is hard to win in the NFL. And my God, is it hard to shut people out in the NFL. But you went out and left a no-doubter on the field defensively today.
Yeah, I mean, like,
yards.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. They didn't allow 60 yards. That's
you would have said that to me. I would have told someone they're full of shit because there's no way in hell that anyone's limiting the under 60 yards. Now, we were 94 yards against the Titans?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's a little bit okay. Like, I can get that sort of, but not under 60. And the fact that they had 7 sacks and 3 takeaways, and then on the flip side, the offense didn't give the ball away, that just fed off everything. But the defense did what they were supposed to. We said, on the pregame show, they have to come in and play this game as if they're playing the Chiefs or whoever, because they can't have a letdown game. They folded last week in the final drive. I don't care how they got there. They folded. They came out this week, put that to bed. I think Kevin Stefanski said afterward they had a bad taste in their mouth. Well, how do you get rid of that? You go 1-0 this week. They did.
I love that the Browns are putting together this resume of elite performances. And I feel like when you look at the season in its entirety, you're going to be able to look back and the people that pick Defensive Player of the Year are going to say, well, the Browns completely shut down this team and the Browns completely shut down that team. And here's this historic stat and here's that historic stat. I feel like it's really coming together for Myles to have his first Defensive Player of the Year campaign. And I'm so happy for him. He deserves it, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this was just like, obviously I think if I would have said that this is the best defensive performance, like kind of what Jacob was saying, like of his lifetime. I mean, just everything about this game was exactly what you expected when you look at the talent that's on this team. I mean, you look at the corners, you look at the safeties, you look at the linebackers, and obviously the defensive line is just a monster in its own right. But like, I mean, the fact that they basically looked at the entire game plan for the Cardinals and said, we're gonna take away all of your short stuff, we're gonna take away all of your long stuff, we're just gonna basically they rushed with 4 the majority of the game. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that you have guys like Zadarius and Obo and Myles who are able to just get pressure by themselves, even when they're chipped, even when they're double teamed, and force Tune to get up in the pocket and give guys like Jordan Elliott, give guys like Dalvin Tomlinson, give guys like even Shelby Harris to get up in his face. I mean, it was insane just how. I mean, everything was efficient. Nothing was easy. None of those passes. Like, I mean, again, like you were saying, he had like almost no targets that were further than 10 yards. So every single thing he did, he was always under pressure. He never got he had a couple easy little checkdowns, but again, they went nowhere because the guys we have just fly all over the place. I don't think there was any weak spot on the defense at all, outside of like maybe they gave Trey McBride that 11-yard reception in the first quarter, which was like the first reception of the game. And other than that, they basically played a perfect defensive game.
And you already know what the detractors are going to say. That's only a 1-7 Cardinals team.
Don't care.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do to that team. What you know what I mean? That's the blueprint. And shout out to Cam Mitchell. Mitchell had a hell of a game. We're getting to see what some of this depth can do. Isaiah McGuire held up well in his reps today. Like, even the backups are starting to show themselves to be like very good players. And this just builds because you're going to get Alex Wright back. You're going to get Greg Newsome back. Jim Schwartz this is his 20th year either being a defensive coordinator or head coach, and this is the most talent he has ever had on his side of the ball. I mean, that's a scary thought for opposing offenses.
I want to do stats real quick, just because I want to do the actual the breakdown of the Cardinals. Shit. Where's that sound coming from?
Sound?
There it is. Found it. Got it. We're good. I found it. Anyway, I wanted to do the offensive stats for the Cardinals just because I just think when you say these out loud, you're going to be like, you're full of it. You're messing with me. Okay. So total plays ran for the Cardinals. They had 48 plays. They only had 10 more yards than they had plays ran. They had 58 yards on 48 plays. They ran 48 plays to the Browns 71. They had 58 yards to the Browns 326. They had 1.2 yards per play. This is where it gets really funny. They had 17 net passing yards. 17. They were 11 of 20. They had 0.6 yards per pass attempt. 0.6. Yeah. Like 2 interceptions. They were sacked 7 times. They lost 41 yards. They carried the ball 21 times for 41 yards, which is 2 yards a carry. They had 3 turnovers. They only had 23 minutes time of possession to the Browns 36. They were 1 of 12 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down. And that's by the numbers what the Browns defense did. And it's just like, I don't know, like if we were sitting here trying to and Casey and I were talking to our good friend Randy Gurzy, and we always talk with him about studs and duds after the game. He'll be like, well, who do you guys think are the studs? And we'll kind of talk through it as a group. He was asking for duds, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I don't know. Like, I guess James Hudson let up a pressure. I don't know. What do you want from me? Like on either side of the ball? And it's like, yeah, Ford had some struggles, but I thought he had some good runs overall. Like he had some good runs in there. Like
he was doing good as a check down target. He did a lot. He had a lot of good receiving work today. And it's really good just seeing Deshaun also taking those check downs, like looking up, seeing, okay, I there's not a lot of deep stuff. Nothing's progressing. Just give it to Jerome. Let him get like 6-7 yards. I mean, he got a couple of first downs just off of those little check downs. So, I mean, just the fact that he's like comfortable enough in his progressions to be able to say, okay, nothing's developing that I need to hold the ball for. Just check it down to Jerome, check it down to whoever the back is, and just let him do what he's going to do. Like that's all you need to do, really. You don't need to force it.
I was talking more from his rushing game because
I know what you mean.
I'm not having it.
We saw the switch flip for him in the Tennessee game, and it came after he built up some of those shorter completions that are easier to do. And all of a sudden, then it's like the light comes on, and there you see that confident dime down the field to Amari that he was struggling. And even the broken play that he threw to Amari, I think it was about like 20 yards down the field. Like all of a sudden after, and I think maybe Stefanski knows this. Maybe the idea is to have that guy there to help build a little momentum. I feel like Deshaun is showing us that he is a very confidence, momentum-based quarterback, and he needs some of that to get going. And then all of a sudden, like the passes start going the way they're supposed to.
What really got him going and sparked that light, he had that little shifty run, made that little move, and then got the first down. He got up and he looked finally like, okay, I am that guy. Let me go play football. Like everything else has happened. Everything else has been between my ears, no matter what anyone says. My whole team could be out there tweeting the vibes or this and that. But until I come out and play and do well, then it means shit. And he got that little swag in him once he got that first down, that little shimmy. And then he got up, did his little first down thing, and went to work. I was like, okay, that's all you need to do. You don't need to be 2018 Deshaun Watson. You need to be now and be better than what you were previously to this. And you were. So good for you.
Real quick, let's wrap up the conversation about the defense and let's get into Watson, because I know the offensive talk is going to live through Watson because that's just what this season and the offense revolves around. Jack, I'll start with you and we'll go around the horn to Nick and Eddie and Casey, and I'll come back. Give me your it doesn't have to be defensive MVP, but give me one player on the defense that you really enjoyed watching today. Like, it doesn't have to be like a guy that had a massive game, whatever, but just a player that you just really thought had a really good game that you enjoyed watching.
It had to be Grant Delpit.
Okay.
I mean, he was fantastic today. Like, if you just saw how fast he was getting off the ball, I mean, there were some of those plays. I mean, some passes down to Trey McBride on like 4th and 13. I mean, he was hitting him as soon as the ball got there. He had a couple of times where he was in the backfield tackling the running back before he even had the ball. Like he had like 10 tackles today, like 8 solo tackles. He had a half sack, like 2 tackles for loss. I mean, the guy is just electric. And I mean, the fact that he's finally in a role where he can make the biggest impact possible. I mean, honestly, yeah, he's going to get overshadowed a little bit by the defensive linemen because, they got all the sacks. They were making the big plays. You had 2 interceptions and he didn't have any of those. But, I mean, just the fact that he was getting back there, he was making the big hits. He was just imposing his will on the defense. I mean, he has to be the MVP for me, at least for this game.
I think, Dalvin Tomlinson had a hell of a day today, and just seeing him, Jacob, like you were saying, that when people tried to poo-poo him and say he was only a 2-down player and that he couldn't be the complete, he's just been consistently good. And today, with his 3 sacks, he only had 2.5 last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're 8 games through, and Dalvin's already got 3. He's going to set a career high. I think that much is clear, and it just looks like such a good free agent signing, such like exactly the guy you needed. And I love seeing him shine like he did. It's been everything. I could talk about the other tackles too, but just him in particular, that was that big signing you celebrated. And I think he's been everything that you paid for.
I just love that defensive tackle room when I just think about what it was last year. That's all I'll add to what you said. I just, and I'll give the floor to Eddie, but yeah.
I'm going to go Sione Taki. Came up with a pick today, went and handed it right to his wife, who was seated down there in the west end zone, I believe it was. He was all over the place. There was a couple times, I would look away for a second, look up, and I was like, oh, Taki's there again, okay. And the one time he had I think it was the first possession of the game, he had the tackle, and he was all fired up, and just a basic tackle, and his fired. I was like, okay, let's see. And then he was just all over the place, and he's played a lot better this year. He's been healthy, that's first and foremost, but this system brings out the best in all of these players, and they can just feed off that. So he got a pick, so I'm going with him today. I'm glad that he got that.
I like it. Casey, we got
Zadarius Smith.
Yes,
sir. Zadarius, just constant pressure, and he was going up against a rookie. But Paris Johnson's very talented, and he didn't have anything for Zadarius today. And Zadarius finally got home too. That's another good feeling for him. He's been supplying a ton of pressure the entire season, but he hasn't gotten a lot of sacks. To see him get on the board, that's nice. And I saw a nice little pregame moment when he was doing his warm-ups with a little kid, and just to see a good dude, you know what I mean, have good things happen. And Miles is going to get all the pub, but Zadarius has really shown up for this team, and they're going to need him to over the next few games. So just to see him hit his stride is a good thing.
So I was just kind of hoping one of you would select one player so that I could select a different one. So I wanted to say Shelby Harris, but I will say that I really liked what Shelby Harris did, but I got to go with my guy, and I got to stick with Martin Emerson, because Martin Emerson is quietly just been really freaking good. And I was a debate in my head between him and Denzel Ward, just because I thought Denzel played really well and Denzel looked really athletic today. You son of a bitch. Good Lord.
What was that?
It was where I had the stats pulled up on ESPN, so they kept trying to play ads in the background. So that's why
all the time.
And I'm like, I'm just trying to have stats on the ESPN page so that I can say them if I need them. But I thought Denzel looked like a really good athlete out there today, so I thought that was kind of cool. But you just don't talk about Martin Emerson most of the time because he's not doing anything in terms of letting up any plays. You're not worried about what Martin Emerson's doing over there, and he's just I just
they don't want to throw to him. They don't want to throw towards him.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what exactly. It's he locks it down, and Denzel had a great game too, but it's just you may not notice until you go watch the all 22 what Martin Emerson does on a weekly basis, because like you said, Jack, they're not going to throw at him, and they're just they would rather test Denzel Ward. And that's ludicrous.
Okay.
That is ludicrous to be who I'm going to test today? 21. And it's just I think Emerson, I got to get one. I'm going to get a 23 before the year's up. I absolutely have to get a 23 jersey at this. But it's just people, including me, were who? When they drafted him? Well, now you figured it out. And it's not even been 2 years into his career. And he's that
fantastic.
Guy.
Jacob,
but that's
I just got to add, Dalvin Tomlinson had 3 sacks today. The Browns' second leading sacker from last season was Taven Bryan with 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dalvin had 3 today.
Casey's got something about Martin.
I'm sorry.
I just want to add something about Martin Emerson. That's the reason we got him, because he was the least targeted cornerback in the SEC. Teams weren't thrown at him, so he didn't have these numbers when he was at Mississippi State. You know what I mean? So like that's how he falls to the third round, and he's clearly a top tier talent. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's no free meals on 23, and teams are not targeting him. Last week you seen Geno kind of go at him, and he paid for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have one more thing to say about the defense.
Yes.
Myles Garrett said after the game that they all enjoy being around one another. They're always doing things outside of practice. Like they're even watching film outside of practice when it's not required of them to. They're not to eat, getting a camaraderie. Last year, in the past few years, there was rifts all throughout there. There was just different. I don't know who it was or what it was. You know, we can all make assumptions. That doesn't matter now. But now they're a cohesive unit. You know, they took that loss personally last week. That was on them. They know that. I don't care what anyone says about any sort of play calling that happened prior to that. They folded. They came out and redeemed themselves in the biggest way you possibly could. You shut out a team at home in front of your home crowd. You limit them to 58 yards of offense. You get after the quarterback 7 times. You pick them off twice and make them fumble once. So you can see that they're all together. And with that, and then after the game, the offense and the defense are together too. So I think it was Delpit and Njoku walking out the field together is one of the videos the Browns shared. And they're hyped together, so it's all feeding off everything. And now Watson's finally here, and boom, the pieces in. But Myles Garrett said that they're, you know, enjoying being there, being teammates. Everyone's enjoying themselves.
Well, and Watson and Miles are at the Cavs game.
Yes, they are. Courtside.
One last thing about this defense, man. Last thing about this defense. They've played 8 games. 3 teams have failed to score a touchdown against them. That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous in the NFL in 2023.
Pretty.
Just so we make it clear that Casey and I have done 2 watch parties on the PSF app. And during those 2 watch parties, the Cleveland Browns have outscored opponents 54-3. As we have done the Titans and the Cardinals games. Those are the 2 watch parties. And we are doing a watch party next week, gentlemen.
Yeah, there's a good news.
I want to
place your bets.
I want to add too. I'm really happy for the fans, man, because the Browns are 4-1 at home, right?
Yeah.
You're giving a consistent, rewarding experience to all those people going down there every week, and like I love that for them, because for so long it's been a struggle. So to see the Browns play this well at home and to like really feel like you're really starting to say, hey, we've got a home field advantage here. We are crushing. But the Browns have won 3 games at home by 20 or more points. That's
a big advantage.
What is that? I mean, come on. The NFL has all these close games every week, and the Browns are just. I don't know what this is. I don't. It's not a thing. I don't. It's weird.
Sorry, I'm still laughing about that.
Casey said they wouldn't have a play inside the red zone. They didn't have one inside the 40. So shout out to you, Casey. You said that.
Yeah, dude, Casey nailed it by a mile.
You know, real quick, I just thought about him just real quick. I just sometimes I think about some of the stuff the defense has played, and I just think about our late friend Papa Mick and how much he would enjoy this team, and
he would
try not to get emotional about it, but I just kind of thought about him because he was pretty excited about what they were doing before he passed. So hopefully he's upstairs enjoying the hell out of this season. So well, let's get to Watson, man. That's where we got to go with the rest of it. And talking about the defense, it's so great though that we could do this whole show on the defense and not even just talk about what Deshaun Watson did. And and it's like, okay, it's like Watson shows promise and dominant, Browns win. Like that's the title of the episode. We're just now getting to Watson in 24 minutes in here. I was so happy with what happened today. I get it, 19 of 30, 219 yards. I predicted he wouldn't turn the ball over. He didn't turn the ball over. This is the first time the Browns didn't turn the ball over at all as a team. 8 games, it took 8 games for them to not turn the ball over. And so that was pretty cool to see that. But I think for me, and I'll go around the horn then, just the same as we just did before, just what you felt about Watson, and then we can do some more stuff on the offense and as we wrap this thing up. But for me, it was that 59-yarder to Amari Cooper in the first was the moment I thought, okay, maybe he is healthy. Like that's kind of what I thought when I saw that, because it was a really nice deep ball. Like you said, it was kind of, Eddie, I know you talked about it being kind of a broken play, and you saw some of that improvisation from him and some of that stuff that makes him special as a quarterback when he was in Houston. And it felt like that first half he was a little rusty. And then in the second half, I think he came alive. You talked about that run. He gets that little shimmy. He gives you that first down. He pops up. And that throw to Amari Cooper that was almost a touchdown, he didn't have to all Amari literally had to do was stick his hands here. He didn't stretch it out. He didn't have to lunge. He didn't have to slow down, nothing. It got dropped in an absolute bucket downfield. And my favorite part is, and everybody's talking about this on Twitter, those two drew that play up in the dirt because of the coverage they had been seeing from the Cardinals. And I think it was Andrew Spade with the OBR who said that's franchise quarterback stuff. Like that's what a franchise quarterback and a number one wide receiver do. And I thought that was a really good point that Andrew made. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, that's exactly what that is. And him being able to put some zip on some balls, and then he stopped. And then Jack, you talked about him doing some checkdowns to Jerome Ford and some things like that, where he was picking up yardage and he was being smart with the football. And it was like they were getting cheap yardage because he was threatening with his legs, and then was like, trick ya, and then would just throw it over to Jerome Ford and and things like that. And I just thought, this is the best I think Watson has looked throwing the deep ball. I think he looked really good, of course, overall against Tennessee, but I thought there were some really nice deep passes. That Marquise Goodwin one, you get both your hands on that ball in the NFL, you need to come down with the football. In my opinion.
He also got hit in the head, so I think that there might have been a bit of that too. That kind of.
That's fair. That is fair.
He was definitely out on his feet. I don't know who it was that was behind him, had him. I was like, oh, he might be knocked out.
I think that was Elijah trying to help him.
I remember. He tried to pick him up.
He was like holding him,
was just wobbly.
Yeah, he was not. He was not.
Yeah, but still good throw. I thought that was still a dime.
It was still a good throw. It was just unfortunate tackle.
Yeah, but it's just like we finally saw some zip. We saw some arm strength. We saw him. I know zip's a taboo word.
Funny little word.
It's just it is a great word right now. But he looked healthy. Mm-hmm. And that was step one in figuring this offense out. Step one was getting your quarterback healthy. He looked healthy. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he went through his reads well. He's navigated the pocket well. He didn't bail clean pockets like he had been. And I just thought overall I was really happy with it. And I'll pass it along to you, Jack. But I just think that he showed a lot of promise today. And you may have something here.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I think everyone should be happy with it, because I think this was like a perfect game of terms of like him really going through all of his progressions, coming off of like a 2-week break, after even having like a 4-week break after the Titans game, where he starts off and he's you can see the rust, you can see he's still throwing low, he's still throwing behind people, and obviously you're concerned with that, but he kind of was not. He responded the way you wanted to. He didn't let it get to him. He didn't let it, stop him from trying to make those throws anyways. And even then, he wasn't putting the ball in compromising positions. He wasn't putting the ball in a place where it could get picked, where, it could get a guy hurt. For the most part, he was putting it just in places where he wanted his guy to be able to catch it and no one else. And yes, were they bad in completions? Were they bad passes? Yes, but he didn't let them get to him. He kept just doing what he was doing, going through his progressions. And finally, he started to just air it out a little bit more, get a little bit further. And some of the plays that I think that a lot of people might not look at immediately, because in terms of the yardage, they're not too crazy. But I mean, in terms of like that quick pass to Njoku, like right when he got into the opening between the zone and for the touchdown, that was a great pass. I mean, they had no time to react. He was just wide open through it. That at the end of the first half, that one pass to Elijah Moore right to the sticks, and then they were able to get down and get a spike and get a field goal off of it. I mean, that's a great pass. I mean, again, he gets the ball, sees the read, immediately throws it. And those are the kind of throws that you want. And obviously, yeah, Jacob, you talked about it. I mean, that one pass in the fourth quarter to Amari, I mean, no, he put it in a place where no one else could even get close to catching. I honestly didn't know if Coop was going to get to it because he thrown it just so far ahead of him, and there were two guys there. I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be a breakup. This is going to be a pick. And instead it was a perfect pass. So, I mean, you just love seeing him. Obviously, he starts the game slow, but he doesn't let it slow him down. He gets better every single possession. It seemed like he was being more confident, taking the checkdowns, taking the pass, what the defense gives him, and airing it out and finding the guys open when, throwing with anticipation. That's really what you like to see. Throwing with anticipation, being able to go off his reads and just get yards, whatever the defense wants to give him. I mean, yeah, he didn't get a lot of yards today. I mean, you'll take 220 and 19 of 30 with 2 touchdowns. Could have been more, but you know what? He did exactly what you wanted him to do to win the game, and it's a good start. In considering the fact that we want him to be as close to 100% going up against Baltimore.
I like a lot of what you just said, Jack. I want to build on it. I think it's like we saw that glimpse with Tennessee of like Deshaun. The first time I think Deshaun truly looked confident in a Cleveland Browns uniform, and it was just so discouraging to see, him get hurt right after that and that momentum break. And so for me, what I wanted to come out with today was Deshaun looking like he could get some of that back. Like the game against the Bengals, I would say the Browns largely won in spite of his play. And I think with Tennessee in that victory, you really started to see Deshaun take the reins, and it really looked like they were turning the corner. So today, when he starts to find his confidence again, and he's just airing the ball out down the field, you look at that, and that was like exactly what you saw towards the later stages of the game in Tennessee. And so that's where I'm at. It just gives me a lot more confidence with the Browns in the season moving forward. Like, I know Baltimore is going to be a huge test, and we'll get there. But for Deshaun to look like that, I feel good moving forward. And that's probably the biggest victory to me. Like, obviously, it's amazing to kick Arizona's ass, but everything rides on where Deshaun's at mentally. And there's been a lot of stuff said between the last time he started a game for you and now. And I think a piece to this too is Deshaun sees this stuff, right? And so it's like, how do you respond to that? There's rampant negativity going on all over here. Like, will you play well despite that? And he did. And that's a huge credit to him, because this place is not an easy place to play quarterback, especially if you're struggling.
I will add on to that while he does see all this, he's acknowledged he sees all this stuff that we're saying. They're all fair questions. Can you not get injured, and can you throw the football to wide open receivers? If you can do that, we're all good. I don't care about anything.
Yeah,
else.
Pretty much.
I just care about what happened prior to you getting here. I don't care about the hoopla that ensued when we got you. I don't care about any of that. You're here to play football now. We have the rest of this season and 3 more after that. So let's just give it hell and let's go. So those questions are fair, but he stepped up to the plate and answered those. He didn't play. He hasn't really played football outside of a couple possessions a couple weeks ago for 6 weeks. After already missing last year so much time and all the time leading up to it, and it just hasn't been great at all. Today he came out and just played it. At first it was a little rusty. Yeah, you're gonna have that. But then he settled in. He was stepping up into the pocket. He was taking some shots as he was releasing the football. He got up. The one time I didn't know if he was getting up for sure. I was like, oh no, he's moving weirdly. And then he got up. I was like, okay, we're good. But he was finding guys open, and some of those incompletions that he had were drops. He had 3 or 4 different guys that dropped the ball. Not that they would have been huge yardage plays, but they would have moved the ball a little bit further, closer to the first down line. And that's where they can operate. When they get in those 3rd and shorts, 3rd and 3 or fewer, then Stefanski has the whole damn playbook to open up to. And he put Deshaun in position today to succeed. Similar like he did against Tennessee, those quick passes, those check downs to Jerome Ford. He's taking what the defense is giving him, and then he's able to air it out. All right, let's see what this shoulder can do. Okay, here you go. Boom. And that dime to Cooper. He had a few of them, but that dime where all Cooper, like Jacob said, this. Didn't even have to extend his arms. Just put his arms out or his hands out. Dropped it right in there. I thought he looked slow and rusty in the first half, but the second half, I thought he looked like the old Deshaun Watson. Even if he didn't get the stat line of the old Deshaun Watson, he looked like that. He was confident, and he was airing the ball out, and you love to see it.
You guys all made some beautiful points there. Of course, the headline is going to be the shoulder. How does it look? Can he generate power? Can he look like he's throwing it naturally, not having to overcompensate in other areas? But I want to talk about some of the nuances, man. Even when it wasn't going well early, his maneuverability in the pocket, his feel for pressure. He only had one bad pressure rep, in my opinion. He was able to keep his eyes upfield. And Jacob, you brought it up, but his ability to, when he was not finding anything and looking towards his check down, he would threaten the line of scrimmage, freezing the linebacker and then dump off, giving his running back a head start because you're going up against a frozen defense. And he probably could have got the first down running on some of those, but just to understand, he's more important than that. Dump it off to your running back, let him to get those tough yards for you. So it's just general understanding of how he needs to play, how he needs to maneuver in order to be successful. And then you saw it in the second half when those passes started connecting, everything started to open up more. So he knocked a decent amount of rust off from my estimation today. And you're going to need to, because what you're going to face next weekend is a much different challenge than what you faced today. But I think this was a very good building day, and you should be encouraged by what you've seen. And people are going to find ways to detract, and there were some bad completions. And that's the beautiful thing, though. 19 of 30, it wasn't all great, but this is a good thing to build off of, and there are things you can get better and things you can tighten up, but you can do all that coming off a win. That's the best case scenario for Deshaun Watson.
Jacob, before you go, there's going to be detractors no matter what. There was a fan who literally was shaking his head and mad when Deshaun Watson completed a pass off a face mask and Cooper stayed with it and went and got it for the touchdown. A fan was legitimately mad, and thousands of people surrounding him, all up in the air, joy, and everyone's high-fiving and barking and all that good stuff. This dude is mad. We scored a touchdown and he's mad. Why? Why are you mad, dude? Like, who hurt you?
Man, we were talking earlier, like, who's going to be who? There's no criticism. Who's going to criticize? I'm going to criticize some of the people that I was hearing at the game. They were like in the first quarter, they were saying PJ Walker. They were saying this guy stinks. They were saying Kevin Stefanski's the worst coach in the league. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I don't understand how you guys can say that. Are we watching the same game? Are we watching like what Kevin?
Yeah.
Guys, if somebody told you that the Browns weren't going to have Deshaun for how many games is it now? He's played 4 games. We're week 9, so 5 weeks without Deshaun, and yeah, or is it 4? I think it's 4 weeks.
4 games. 4 games
without Deshaun.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb goes out in the second week. You lose your right tackle in the first game, third game.
Yeah, first game.
Yeah,
it was the first half.
I mean, you're down all that. And then they told you, by week 8, you're 5-3. I don't know how you could say that Kevin Stefanski is a bad coach. I just don't get it. Like, trust me, I understand criticizing the coach. I get it. Sometimes, you're like that. I don't understand the play call, but at this point, it's like, now we're just being petty. Now it's just like, we're just saying that, hey, that play didn't work. Therefore, Kevin's a bad coach. I just don't get it. Like, I understand. Yeah. Sometimes you throw the ball and you're like, why aren't you running the ball in the red zone? I get it. That doesn't mean he's a bad coach. It just means the play didn't work.
There's like this notion that if you're a good football team, everything you do is this sexy, perfect football. And it's like, I watch the Chiefs most weeks. They do not just blow teams' doors off all the time. It's not like every pass is just this beautiful rainbow from Patrick Mahomes. Like it's not always going to be pretty. You take it however you can get it. The Steelers do that to opponents every week. It's incredible. You see the Ravens just blew the doors off of the Seahawks, but they couldn't catch a pass when they were playing in Pittsburgh. I don't care how it looks. You just have to get the job done, and that's what the Browns are doing.
There was a funny.
Go ahead, Jacob.
There was a funny thing on the train, Jack. You mentioned hearing people say wild things around you. The stupidest thing I've ever heard by fans was that JOK is slow and can't play linebacker. Mm-hmm. I heard that before the Ravens game, and I was like, what? Like, you can say you don't like him. You can say, like, oh, he's too small, blah, 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 whatever. But, like, he's so slow and he makes no plays. And I was like, okay.
I've heard people say that, too. And I'm just like, I guess we just don't watch the same game. Like, I mean, I get it. You don't – linebacker, you're not really watching the linebacker a lot.
Right.
So, like, I get if you miss the stuff he does. But, yeah, I don't know.
To say he's slow is like –
some people are funny.
So, I wanted to give you a stat. The best record by head coaches following a loss since 1970.
Now you're just gonna steal my stat. That's nice. I love that.
I have had it up on my fucking phone. All right.
I was just gonna say that, and then you started talking, so I said, "Go ahead, Jacob." So go ahead, Jacob, with the stat. Go ahead.
Yeah. Suck it. George Allen's 24-7, John Madden's 22-7-1, and Kevin Stefanski, the third highest winning percentage since 1970 after a loss. Going into this game.
Going into the game, he froze him.
Cliffhanger.
This
Cliffhanger.
is what he gets.
Eddie, finish the stat for us, would you?
He's not 19-7
doing
This
it.
is what he gets. This is what he gets for stealing the stat.
That's right.
No, he's
I
back.
had it first.
He's back.
He's
He's back.
He's 19-7 now. That's the third best, like Jacob said. Third best. Could you say those other two names again, Jacob, that were ahead of him?
Just
George Allen and John
Oh,
Madden.
where were those guys all right?
George Allen and John
Those
Madden.
guys, right?
Those guys aren't that good.
You can go visit their
Listen,
statues
yeah.
in the Hall of Fame if you want to get familiar.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh, wait.
little Canton trip.
Well, we've got a full week of content going on for you guys here. Scarlet and Gray podcast tomorrow on Monday. Come Tuesday, Yard Dogs at 7. Nick, Casey, and I will be with you guys at 8 for the Barking Browns show. Faithful Dogs on Wednesday. Dog Chug on Wednesday. Across the Cabs all the time. And my first draft video will drop this week. We'll talk about some offensive line targets.
Jacob and I have a collaboration that we will pretty soon announce as well.
Yeah, we are going to do the one chip challenge and me drink a bunch of hot sauce when he is at my house 2 weeks from now. We will upload that sometime after that. My thought was, and Nick's with me on this one. My thought is, not only are we going to record the consumption of it, but we're also going to put in some clips of us 2 and 3 hours after.
That's going to be.
There may be some videotaping of the outside of the shitter door while I'm making some violent screams. But I did want to tell you guys before we step away, jelly beans are so shiny because they're coated with celiac, which is made from insect poop.
Thank you for that. With that said,
Okay.
this is a Browns victory post-game review episode presented to you by Network 216. I'm Nick. He's Jack. That's Jacob. He's Casey. And that's Eddie. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Insect poop.
5-3.